Hello, fellow geeks. It is I, your editor, Donald. Before we get started with this episode of General Geekery, I just want to take this opportunity to apologize to you, our listeners, for the lateness of this episode. Over the course of editing and recording this episode, both Hannah and I fell sick during different periods over the course of this episode being produced. I don't know if it was actually because of the curse on the movie or if it was just coincidence, but regardless, we wanted to take this opportunity to apologize to you guys. So with that out of the way, please enjoy this episode of General Geekery, all about The Exorcist. All right.
Gonna make some mittens. Yeah.
Indeed.
Making some mittens. I'm done.
It's a night after we got a huge snowstorm where we were.
We have a nice, cozy evening in watching.
Probably one of the most famous horror films ever made.
Yes, indeed.
With Kefka shouting in the background, "No, don't do it! Don't do it!"
Don't do it.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are your hosts of the one and only General Geekery podcast.
Yeah, well, actually, it's not the one and only. There is another podcast called the General Geekery Podcast.
Well, for our sake.
Yeah. Okay.
This is the General Geekery podcast, the podcast where we love to geek out about all that we love to geek out about with no remorse
No regret.
and with all of the enthusiasm in the world.
Indeed.
As always, we are your hosts. I am your coffee ninja by day, actor, gamer, streamer by night, Donald Kaczynski. Joining me, as always, wrapped up in a blanket and doing some knitting, she is our artiste extraordinaire and resident video game inept.
Yeah.
She is the one and only Hannah Kubiak.
Hello. I'm looking forward to watching this, one of the most iconic horror films of all time, Steel Magnolias.
Bruh.
No?
No.
No. Okay.
So we're watching The Exorcist.
The Footloose.
So, Hannah was actually the one that wanted to watch this.
Yes.
Was there a reason why, again? I
Because
forgot.
I've never seen it.
Was that mainly
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Because I was kind of like, I can't believe I've never seen The Exorcist. I want to watch it at some point.
You know, I'm gonna be
It's
honest.
kind of like when in the early days of Anime April, I would pick things to watch because
You haven't seen them before?
Because I hadn't seen them before and I wanted to. Like, that's how we watched Cowboy Bebop, was because I'd never seen it. And I was like, I want to watch it. And I want a reason to watch it.
You know, you make an excellent point.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we have, it's been a long time since I've personally seen The Exorcist. Hannah hasn't seen it. We are watching the version you've never seen.
Ain't that the truth? I've never seen it.
Which is basically the director's cut on YouTube.
What?
And Kefka is...
What is he doing?
I don't know.
Is he trying to get into the garage? Not the garage, the garbage.
Hold on.
A few minutes later.
Sorry, guys. Had to stop Kefka from doing whatever it was that he was doing. He was like digging through the garbage or something like that.
The cat's work. Yeah.
Indeed. So we're gonna be watching The Exorcist. We're doing the version you've never seen, which I assume is the director's cut. And again, first time Hannah's seeing it. I haven't seen it for years, so I am very, very light on the details of this movie. So yeah, it's gonna be a good time.
It's as though we're seeing it for the first time.
Indeed. So for those of you that are listening to this episode of the podcast on platforms such as Spreaker, Spotify, and everything like that, we will see you guys after the film with our thoughts and analysis.
3 days later.
Hello, fellow geeks. We are back from watching The Exorcist about 3 days later?
Yeah.
3 days later? 4 days later?
Yep.
We decided to mull on the movie a little bit.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff happened since then, and Hannah's feeling a little bit sick, so if she feels a bit stuffed up, please don't pay it any mind.
Yeah, if I sound like I'm, possessed or something, don't worry about it.
It's okay. We contacted Father Marin in the afterlife. She's fine.
Sheesh. I have 7 pages of notes. I'm sure you'll be glad to hear because I went really deep on this one.
I would be hard pressed to not have you have that much information.
Yeah. I don't think I've had this long of a, this thorough of a note-taking since Bond month last year.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, we just finished up. We finished watching The Exorcist. It was Hannah's first time watching it all the way through.
Yep.
And it was my first time seeing it in literal years. So
Yep.
I was just as blind as Hannah going into it, except for some points where I'm like, oh, that's right, this scene.
For once, I think you were slightly less blind than me. So we're friends. I can make those jokes, right?
Yeah, that's
okay.
fair. That's fair. You get a pass. You get a pass.
You get a pass.
So,
All right. Well, where should we begin? Should we just say a little bit about the movie, like when it was made and
yeah, we'll talk a
its
little bit.
Inspirations and stuff.
Yeah, so the movie was originally released in 1973 was when this movie came out, and is actually inspired by a novel of the same name that was released 2 years prior.
Yep, written by William Blatty.
Indeed.
I love that name.
Blatty.
William Blatty. It was directed by another William Friedkin?
Friedkin, yeah.
Friedkin, yes.
Indeed.
So, I went a little bit deeper on this, and so the movie is inspired by a book, which was inspired by the story of a real life exorcism. So the book was inspired by an exorcism in 1949 that was performed on a boy who remains anonymous, but he has been called by the pseudonyms Roland Doe and Robbie Mannheim.
Okay.
The priest, it was in Maryland in 1949.
Mm-hmm.
And it started when this kid, we'll call him Roland.
It's a good name.
Yeah, stayed with his aunt for a bit. She taught him the wonders of Ouija, then suddenly died.
Oh, no.
So the boy began exhibiting signs of possession, like his bed was shaking, there were like weird scratches appearing on his back, sometimes writing words.
Mm-hmm.
Like hello and hell. And I'm trying to figure out which one of those was a typo. I don't know which.
It's the O.
Then he also became really, really violent. So he was brought to Georgetown University Hospital, and Father Edward Hughes began performing exorcisms on him, but he had to stop after Roland broke free of hospital restraints and slashed the priest with a mattress spring.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Those are sharp.
Yeah, so he actually had to, be treated for that and recover from it and stuff. And the kid also apparently, broke a priest's nose at one point. He was just, really, really violent, breaking free of all of the restraints and stuff. People apparently who are under demonic influence can become, unnaturally strong.
They did mention that as part of the plot of the film. So.
Yeah, they did. So a new priest named Father William Bowder finished up the exorcism. It took a total of 6 weeks. I don't know. I'll kind of talk about what an exorcism actually is. It's more than just you go in once and you're the power of Christ compels you, and that's it. There's a bit bigger process to it. It's more time.
More time
more time consuming, than you'd think. But it's not like you just keep on doing the exorcism until the demon is going. We'll see. I'll tell you more about it in a little bit.
Because in the climax of the film, when they brought in Father Merrin, they mentioned that it took him several months on the last exorcism that he did. Yeah. And I actually have some stuff about
one of the exorcists for the Diocese of Rome who had a story about the longest like continuous exorcism that he did, where he would see this person regularly and perform the rite and everything, was 16 years.
Ah.
So that's what this book was based off of, and I'm trying to remember if it was just for the movie that they changed it from a young boy to a young girl. I think that's a pretty cool change. I think it's just, I mean, any kind of child saying stuff like this kid in The Exorcist is saying is kind of disturbing, but for some reason, just it being a little girl is just even more creepy.
It was the same girl in the novel, so
oh, gotcha. Okay.
So they basically changed it to a young girl in both the novel and the film adapted that.
All right,
so
cool. Thank you.
I double checked.
All right, so let's go through a little bit the plot of The Exorcist.
Dun dun.
So it begins with Father Lancaster Marin at a dig in Iraq. I read somewhere that it was ancient Nineveh. Do you know where Nineveh is?
Not really, no.
In the Bible, Nineveh is where God sent Jonah, and Jonah didn't want to go there.
Ah.
Because Nineveh was like really... He basically thought they were going to kill him because they were so like... They had all sorts of like pagan, satanic rituals and things going on there. Like it was a rough place to be preaching God's word, and Jonah didn't want to go there.
Ah, okay.
So Father Lancaster Marin, at the dig, he finds a St. Joseph medal and a statue of a demon, and I read several places that you are correct. The demon is Pazuzu.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I said that during the watch through as a joke.
Yeah, no, it is.
Oh my gosh.
And the funny thing
Actually got it right.
the funny thing I learned about this demon is like, I heard this on a podcast actually, that the more you say his name, the more likely he is to show up. So there's that.
Thanks, Futurama.
Yep. So that's in the flashback. He also sees a statue of this this demon. Okay, so Father Karras confides in another priest that he can't be a counselor for other priests anymore because he's lost his faith. So here we have our broken individual coming into this. They introduce it pretty quickly, like what the character's problem is. He's a priest, but he's lost his faith.
They spend more time on it as the reason, like,
yeah,
why, just like showing his life before he says he lost his faith, because we see him spending time with his mother.
Yeah.
Dimmy.
Yep. Reagan McNeil, who is our 12-year-old girl, she plays around with a Ouija board, talking to someone named Captain Howdy.
Howdy doody time. It's howdy doody time.
So creepy.
Sorry.
So yeah, don't mess with Ouija. Don't.
We both said that during the watch through.
Don't mess with it. We're just like, God, no.
We both believe in paranormal shit, so
yep.
Don't. Just don't.
Yeah. So, there's another point in the plot. In a local church, a statue of Mary was found desecrated. We never really see anything about that, like why it happened or who did it.
It's heavily implied to be related to Reagan, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, the more that you think about it, it's just like, who?
It's just like a random thing that happened.
Yeah, that's like one of the only loose threads. But to be
yeah,
honest, I kind of forgot about it. Like,
I didn't. I guess just because like it might just be because I am a Catholic and we consider Mary to be our spiritual mother. That it was just kind of like, duh, like can't believe you did that. Whoever did that, like.
It struck a nerve in you.
It did, yeah. I almost found that a little bit more disturbing than some other things that happened later. So. Oh,
I think the one thing that I think I know that you're thinking about, I'm like, you found that the desecration of the statue more disturbing than that?
Maybe they're side by side. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Sorry, didn't mean to sidetrack.
Yeah.
Carry on.
So Reagan shows some signs of what people think is maybe a neurological disturbance, and it kind of almost looks like maybe schizophrenia or Tourette's or something, where people will I know often people with Tourette's, they'll just like shout stuff.
Right.
They're known to have sort of like involuntary body movements and stuff.
Kind of weird because like back then, I feel, especially back in like the 70s and like beforehand, people just always just swept that under the rug for the most part. Like
Swept what under the rug?
just all the different like different forms of like mental illnesses and like
yeah.
their
Well,
intricacies.
it's not really. I don't think Tourette's is a mental illness. It's a neurological thing.
Right.
So like,
That one's more neurological as
Yeah.
opposed to like mental illness, but still.
so it doesn't really affect your. If it affects your behavior and then the involuntary movements can kind of, like if you're a kid who has Tourette's and you can like, it kind of can make you disruptive in class and people think that you're just a badly behaved kid, but
Right.
you just have these involuntary things that you do. There's this friend of mine with there's this friend of mine who had pretty bad Tourette's when he was a kid, and he said, yeah, I was diagnosed with it like just as I was becoming an altar server at church. But then we decided that we decided I probably shouldn't do that because there's like, the little, like the cruets of the water and the wine, and he's like, it would really, really like throw off the entire thing if I just was walking up there with it like flinging around and stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. A funny guy. But some of the neurological disturbances that Reagan exhibits are the involuntary body movements. She has some very choice words for the doctors and stuff. She just like swears at them and says things that, you wouldn't think that a 12-year-old girl would know.
The way that they build up to like the fact that she said this, I was giggling a little bit on the inside, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, if only they knew how today's youth would talk.
Yep. I mean, yeah, I heard that and I was like, is that not normal? Like,
Well, comparing to like a 1970s crowd, yeah, that's.
I guess so,
I guess
yeah.
that can, depending on like where the kind of community, it would be kind of like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this.
oh lordy. I don't know. A child called me a goat once at school, but that's about it.
That's more Shakespearean as opposed to.
He said, shut up, you goat. And I was like, goat? What? Like, he was trying to make me angry, but I just thought it was hilarious.
I know, man. Those grass taste like shit.
Yep. Okay, so after a procedure called a cerebral angiography brings up no results, the doctor recommends an exorcism, which may have good psychological effect, he said.
Which they go into the spine in order to do that. I had to turn away during that scene.
They went into the what?
When they were doing the
Oh,
procedure.
yeah, they have to, like, go through the carotid.
Yeah, I had to turn away hard during that scene. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh.
what that does is they would inject something into the veins, like a color solution. So the vessels are easier to see on a scan.
Right.
So they find nothing weird in the scan. Possession gets worse. Her bed starts shaking, Reagan flinging her body backward and forward, reacting violently to holy water or even the suggestion of it. She spider crawls down the stairs while bleeding from the mouth, speaks in tongues.
That was awesome.
Exhibits abnormal strength, projectile vomiting, head spinning, and violently masturbating with a crucifix.
Oh yeah, as soon as I heard them talk about it, I'm like, oh no, I forgot if this scene was in this. Your reaction to that was.
I don't remember what my reaction was.
You were like, oh my, what?
I don't remember my reaction to it.
I'm gonna be honest. You had kind of the same kind of reaction to that. That's the one that I was implying as like I feel like you had the same reaction to that as the desecration of Mary.
Oh, yeah, I did.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Desecration! Okay, so we go back to Father Karras, the guy who has lost his faith. He's also recently lost his mother. He wasn't with her when she died, and he harbors some guilt about that. So, this is where our characters start to meet each other. Reagan's mother, Chris, contacts Father Karras about an exorcism. he visits Reagan, and he just wants to sort of ascertain whether she needs an exorcism. And he records the conversation with Reagan / the demon. And when played backwards, the tape of Reagan speaking in tongues is actually in English. And I don't remember what the demon was saying, but it included the name of Father Marin, who was in at the dig in Iraq at the beginning.
Yeah. This is right around the time that he brings the case forward to Father Dyer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and they say basically, well, I don't think you should do it yourself because you've never performed an exorcism. There's this Father Marin who can do it, and you can assist him basically because he's done it before. So Father Marin and Dr. Karras work together to exorcise the demon. There's more projectile vomiting and head spinning, and Reagan also levitates.
Levitation.
I'm just gonna take a little drink here.
Sure. They take a break during it, and when they're about to do it again, Reagan starts talking in the voice of Karras' mom, which causes him to break down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which brings me to something that the instructions that Marin gives about sort of like what the rite of exorcism says that you should do. He said, especially important is the warning to avoid conversations with the demon. We may ask what is relevant, but anything beyond that is dangerous. He is a liar. He will lie to confuse us, but he will mix lies with the truth to attack us. The attack is psychological and powerful, so don't listen to him. Remember that. Do not listen. So the demon uses some psychological attacks against both of the priests, Karras for his loss of faith and his guilt about his mother's death. And the demon finally sort of appears to him as his mother when he encounters it alone. It also, I believe it made several crass comments suggesting that Marin is a homosexual. Is that right?
That
a couple of things that the demon said to him kind of made me...
The one that sticks up in my head, and I apologize to our viewers, this is going to be an explicit episode because of this. Stick your cock up her ass, you motherfucking worthless cocksucker.
Oh. How do you know that one right off your head?
To be honest, I've had that played in multiple lists of like top insults in movies or something like that.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
that one usually appears in it, and it's just the voice of the demon possessing Reagan that just sticks out of my head because she's a phenomenal voice.
Yeah. So between exorcisms, like during a timeout, the two priests have a conversation. Very, very brief conversation, but I think it's worth exploring. Karras asks, "Why her? Why this girl?" And Father Marin says, "I think the point is to make us despair, to see ourselves as animal and ugly, to make us reject the possibility that God could love us." While I was researching all this stuff, I was reminded of a book that I had read called An Exorcist Tells His Story, in which the exorcist for the Diocese of Rome just kind of talks about what an exorcism is actually like and stuff. And he says something very similar to what Father Marin says right here. He says, Satan's true goal is not to make you suffer or to harm you. He does not seek our pain, but something more. He wants our defeated soul to say, enough, I am a piece of clay in the hands of evil. God cannot liberate me. God forgets his children if he allows such suffering. God does not love me. So, cool. So in the end, Marin decides to keep on doing the exorcism alone because Karras gets all freaked out by the demon when it, like, starts talking in his mother's voice and stuff. And Marin ends up dying in there. And
we never figure out why.
No.
We don't know if it's because he had a heart attack. We don't know if Reagan had anything to do with it. Kind of similar as to it's implied that Reagan was the person who murdered a character named Burke earlier on, but we never saw the death. We never saw the corpse.
No.
Like, the only real death in this movie that we see happen on screen is
at the very end.
Yeah, the only one at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is kind of odd for a horror movie.
Yeah. So Karras finds Marin's dead body, and he begins to beat the possessed Reagan and demands the demon come into him instead. Once the demon enters him, Karras throws himself out the window, and he falls down this steep set of stairs that's right by the window.
Didn't you label it the Joker stairs?
Yeah, it looked like the Joker stairs where he did his dance.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's the same, because it's... Wait. Where were they in that movie? It wasn't L.A., was it?
They were in D.C.
D.C.
Yeah, they were in Washington D.C. at the time. I don't know where Joker was filmed, so I'll take a moment to look that up. So
wouldn't put it past him. Okay. All right, so let's see. Throws himself out the window. So Reagan is freed from the demon. Chris finds Karras's St. Joseph medal in the bedroom, and he gives it to Karras's friend, Father Dykes. In the director's cut, Dykes returns the medal to Chris, then runs into the detective.
It's Dyer.
Dyer?
Yeah.
Why did I say Dykes?
I don't know.
Runs into the detective, who we fondly just called Homicide the whole time we were watching this. He's
like,
hello, my name is Detective whatever, Homicide.
He was a fan of films.
Yes. So, he runs into Father Dyer, and this is, the end of the movie just reminded me of Casablanca. It was like, it looks like the beginning of a beautiful friendship as they're walking away down the street.
Yep.
So let's see. A little word about... I was kind of confused about why a St. Joseph medal was involved, and then I remembered something about St. Joseph. He has the unique title among saints as the terror of demons. And so there has actually recently been a resurgence in the Catholic Church of devotion to St. Joseph, and Pope Francis officially called the year 2021 the year of St. Joseph. This is probably because of the absence of fathers in so many homes today. Like he said, our world today needs fathers. So very interesting that came up, that it was St. Joseph there. Let's see. What else? Like some interesting stuff about St. Benedict as well, but...
Yeah, there's a lot of
yeah.
There's a lot of blink and you'll miss it moments if you're not as astute in the details of just the history of either exorcism or even the church itself.
Yeah.
I knew you would get most of these because obviously you're devout to your religion, so I asked you before if that was the reason why you chose this, and you're like, no, I just wanted to watch this movie. And I'm
yeah, I did. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And, another powerful saint against, evil and demons is Saint Benedict. And there's a very, what's considered to be a pretty powerful sacramental is the Medal of Saint Benedict, which is very interesting. It's different from a lot of medals you see today, which are usually oval shaped.
Right.
It's actually a circle. I actually have one. I'll show it to you. Hello, cat. Okay.
A few minutes later.
So, it's on the rose, right? It's that.
Ah.
Yes. And if you flip it over, Yeah, it has a lot of stuff on it.
I see.
So on the front there,
There you go.
well, oh yeah, on the back there's all these letters, and they all stand for things in Latin, which some of them I just think are really badass, and I'm gonna read them to you right now.
Fair.
So the first one, it says, it's got some letters that stand for Crux Sacra Sit Mihi Lux, or May the Holy Cross be my light. Non Draco Sit Mihi Dux, or Let not the dragon be my overlord. And
Take that, Smaug.
Crux Sancti Patri Benedicti, the cross of our Holy Father Benedict. And then there's Vade retro Satana, non quam suade mihi vana. Ooh. Or, Begone, Satan, do not suggest to me thy vanities. Followed by, Sunt mala que libas ipsa venena bibas. Or, evil are the things thou profitest. Drink thou thy own poison. I'm like, oh, yes. Badass. Okay. Anyway. I'm a weird Catholic.
Nah, you're good.
I don't know what some of my older friends would think of me referring to Saint Benedict as being badass, but
you have your own beliefs. It's okay.
you had me it. All right, so ready for some weird trivia about The Exorcist?
Let's go.
So the vomit from the projectile vomiting is a mixture of Anderson's pea soup and oatmeal. That's what gives it its nice chunky texture.
It's amazing to me how often oatmeal is used to like produce vomit in movies.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There was something else that oatmeal was used for, and I don't remember. I know that in Shawshank Redemption they used chocolate in the sewer.
Yeah.
Oh, which I almost think to myself, what? Well, I guess if you get some of it in your mouth accidentally, it's not as bad.
Right.
There are a lot of subliminal sounds in this movie, like the buzzing of bees, lions growling before eating, sort of stuff that triggers our fight or flight response.
Yeah.
This is from an article on mental floss. Much of Reagan's moaning and grunting were created by remixing pig squeals.
Yeah, I could see
When
that.
the demon is finally exorcised from her body, the sound you hear is a group of pigs being led to slaughter. Which, this is kind of interesting because there is a Bible story about a bunch of demons that Jesus exorcises from this man who enter a herd of 2,000 pigs and run them over a steep bank into the sea where they drowned.
Huh. What the heck?
Yeah. Reagan's room, the set, was air conditioned to sub-zero temperatures so you could see the actor's breath.
I did like that.
So, like, it was like negative 30 degrees in there.
I do know that this film is like notorious for like a lot of like the stuff that happened on set.
Yes. Like, the director, like, did all sorts of weird things to like, freak out the actors and stuff. Like, he slapped the actor who played Father Marin in the face. He didn't tell the actor playing Father Karras that the like projectile vomit was gonna go all over his face. He would shoot off he would shoot off a gun right next to somebody's head to freak him out, like that kind of stuff. Really weird.
And I thought Kubrick had.
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick was actually also considered to direct this movie. I think.
What?
I think so.
Hold on, back that up.
I think he was asked to, and he didn't want to, or something.
I'm looking this up.
Go ahead. I'll keep on reading these things. Okay, so when Karras sees his mother on the subway, that dream that he has, for roughly 1/8 of a second, there's a creepy, pale demon face. It just like sort of flashes. It shows up a couple of other times too, like when Reagan is in the hospital getting examined, and it's like in the background on the wall or something when Chris is getting home from somewhere. I'm not sure if you're not supposed to, like, consciously register it. Like, I did. I noticed that there was a creepy face that showed up for a second, but...
Huh.
Did you notice the creepy face? I'm curious.
Oh, of the demon?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Okay, cool. It's not just me. Okay, so, yes, this is from Ranker. In the film's introduction, the statue that Father Merrin faces is it's an effigy of Pazuzu, the ancient Assyrian and Babylonian demon. This is the demon that comes to possess Reagan. He's the king of the wind demons, son of the god Hanbi, and has been around since the 8th century BCE. The Metropolitan Museum of Art describes this demon. It says he stands on 2 legs and has human arms ending in claws, with 2 pairs of wings, a scorpion's tail, a snake-headed erect member, and a horned, bearded head with bulging eyes and snarling canine mouth. So you remember? Yeah. You were like, when that showed up, I was like, oh my gosh, that demon has a snake for a dick. That's what it was. Okay,
Oy vey.
Yeah, man.
Apparently Stanley Kubrick was possibly in the running for it.
Yeah, I can believe it. The movie is apparently cursed. And
okay, this I know.
yeah, Friedkin routinely brought in a priest, Father Thomas King, to bless the set and the crew. Father King was a Jesuit and a theology professor at Georgetown University, which is actually where Roland Doe was first brought for observation in 1949. The kid that the book is based off of. He was brought to Georgetown University Hospital. Both Linda Blair and Ellen Burstyn, who played the mom and the daughter, they suffered long-term back injuries from working on the movie.
I would assume so, considering the fact that the mom kept getting thrown all over the place.
Yeah, the shot of her screaming when she hits the floor is her actually screaming because it like damaged things like her coccyx, like the very bottom bone of your spine.
And then of course I can imagine Linda Blair's one is that when they kept having her go whoa whoa whoa.
Possibly, yeah. It said that
that's whiplash.
No, in an article it said that some rigging broke. So maybe the levitating. Not levitating.
Maybe.
The Milky Way.
Possibly.
We're renegade. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so several crew members died in a fire that destroyed most of the set. They think maybe a bird flew into an electrical box, but other than that, there's no explanation for why the set caught on fire. Shooting was delayed because of this. The only room that didn't burn was, creepily enough, Reagan's bedroom. It was possibly because it was air-conditioned so insanely, ? Hannah says.
I don't know.
The man who played the director of Chris's movie.
Yeah, Burke.
Burke.
I know he died.
Jack McGowan, yeah. And the woman who played Karis's mother. They died during filming within a few days of each other. And this is especially spooky when you consider they play 2 characters who die in the movie.
Jeez Louise.
So, for realism, Friedkin cast real priests and medical professionals in the movie. And he filmed that prologue with Marin on location in Iraq.
That had to have been
pricey, probably.
That had been extremely not pricey isn't the right word, but like
dangerous also.
Possibly.
There was like something violent going on at the time.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember like my history of like conflicts and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah. So speaking of the background cast in this movie, a real-life suspected serial killer was an extra in this movie.
I know you were going on and on about this.
Yes. So, he is the one... so Paul Bateson, an X-ray tech who was convicted of 1 murder and suspected for 6 others, plays the radiologist's assistant in the cerebral angiography scene.
Oh, no.
So that with the so he actually had lines as well, like he was the one who was talking to Reagan about like the needle or whatever, and he's like, you'll feel a little pinch here and stuff, and that guy would later go on 4 years later to commit a murder. So,
Oy vey.
So he was arrested for homicide in 1979 after meeting. What is this from?
This is starting to sound like an episode of Monk.
He was arrested for homicide in 1979 after meeting a film critic, Addison Verrill, having sex with him and proceeding to bash his skull in with a skillet.
Not the skillet.
Yeah. Bateson boasted about killing other men while he was waiting trial, claiming he did it for fun and dumped their bodies in the Hudson River. Authorities suspected him of being a serial killer that had been targeting gay men in the years of 1978 and 77 and 78, and wrapping their chopped up remains in plastic bags.
Oh,
These were known as the bag murders.
Oh, Lord.
Though they had a confession, like he confessed to them, he was like, yeah, I killed all those people. They didn't have any evidence. They couldn't link any evidence to this claim. So he was sentenced to 20 years for the murder of Addison Verrill, and he became a free man in 2004.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, All That's Interesting says, he may have passed away in 2012, but no one knows for sure. And then I have a little comment here. I mean, it's like, what? You don't know if he's dead or not? Weird.
Oy vey.
Okay. This might be a two-parter, man. What crap.
There is a lot to talk about. I know I was looking at like some of the early audience reactions to the movie. Apparently, this film was nearly an X-rated film.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they had to go to the MPA, Warner Brothers, I believe, had to go to the MPA a ratings board to get it approved for an R rating as opposed to a X-rated film, just because of the different levels of like how you can like distribute films, like commercial distribution, because you cannot commercially distribute an X-rated film. There's like certain guidelines against that from what I read. But then like early screenings of this, a lot of people had reactions of vomiting or fainting at certain scenes, like the cerebral angiography, and the crucifixion scene with the crucifix scene with
the masturbating with
the masturbating crucifix scene. Those were being like big highlights, but word of mouth spread quick about this film. People kept flocking to the theaters. Like tickets were sold out like weeks in advance.
Holy crap! Yeah.
It would eventually go on to be the highest grossing horror movie of all time until 2017, when the theatrical version of It was released.
Wow. Okay.
So that is, especially when you adjust other movies for inflation, that's a long time.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we've sort of talked about the movie and its depiction of demonic possession and stuff, I have a little bit from the book written by Father Gabriel Amort. It's spelled Amorth, but it's pronounced Amort.
Okay.
He is the Vatican exorcist. And he has passed away, but he was the exorcist for the Diocese of Rome and has been the Vatican exorcist for it was about 30 years plus years that he was the Vatican exorcist. He also founded the National Association of Exorcists, so that's cool. So Father Amort sort of talks about different kinds of demonic activity. There are 6 different forms of it. There's external physical pain caused by Satan. So we know this from many lives of the saints, like St. Paul, the Cross, Padre Pio, and many others, were beaten, flogged, and pummeled by demons. This does not affect the soul, so this type has never really been a need for an exorcism, but only for prayers. The second one is demonic possession. This occurs when Satan takes full possession of the body, but not the soul. He speaks and acts with the knowledge or consent of the victim, who therefore is morally blameless. So this is the gravest and most spectacular form of demonic afflictions, and it attracts the attention of producers of movies, such as The Exorcist. According to the ritual for exorcisms, some of the signs of possession include speaking in tongues, extraordinary strength, and revealing the unknown. The third one is called diabolical oppression. So this is basically, there was no possession, loss of consciousness, or involuntary actions or words, but it's more like unexplainable illnesses.
Right.
So it's like you're not being controlled, but you're like being affected physically, basically. Then there's diabolic obsession. So symptoms include sudden attacks, at times ongoing, of obsessive thoughts, sometimes even rationally absurd, but of such a nature that the victim is unable to free himself. Therefore, the obsessed person lives in a perpetual state of desperation and attempts at suicide. Almost always the obsession influences dreams, which some people will say that this is evidence of mental illness requiring the service of a psychiatrist or psychologist.
Which would explain like why Dr. Karras at first was
Father Karras, yeah.
Father Karras was, well, he's also technically a doctor.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, he's technically.
He was a priest first, though, right? They sent him through medical school.
Yeah, he was a priest first, and they also sent him through medical school.
That's kind of, I was thinking about him too, because there's like, he has these dreams and the demon face shows up in there and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, he's under attack, probably.
Yeah, he's definitely under attack through something like that, but at the same time, like, how he was also, like, explaining, like, modern stuff that might lead to, like, examples of possession can be explained through different, like, mental health issues and stuff like that.
Yeah, so
which is why he was so dismissive at it at first.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to tell the difference sometimes. But yeah, another one is diabolic infestation, and this affects houses, things, or animals, so it doesn't affect people, but it's like hauntings or cursed objects,
right, or
stuff like that. Maybe it's the reason that my cat has been leaping on my head every night and clawing at my brain.
Seriously, what the heck, Captain?
Hello?
He's hiding, waiting to strike.
Yes. And then there's diabolical subjugation or dependence. People fall into this form of evil when they voluntarily submit to Satan. The two most common forms of dependence are the blood pact with the devil and the consecration to Satan. So a lot of people sort of wrongly think that an exorcism is like one of the most powerful rites or prayers in the church, and that is actually not true. Father Mort mentions that the sacrament of confession is actually far more powerful than an exorcism, and the reason he says, many times I've written that Satan is much more enraged when we take souls away from him through confession than when we take away bodies through exorcism. In fact, we cause the devil even greater rage by preaching, because faith sprouts from the word of God. Therefore, a priest who has the courage to preach and hear confessions should not be afraid to exorcise. So it's kind of like, this should not be something that people are afraid to do, because, guys, you do way more cool stuff all the time, is what he's saying, basically. Let's see. Nope, don't read that part. Did you know, this is my last thing.
Okay.
Did you know that William Friedkin met Father Amorth and filmed an exorcism that he did? It was the first ever time that someone was allowed to film an exorcism for a documentary.
What?
Let me tell you about it.
Is that the reason why Lady seeked out Friedkin specifically?
No, Friedkin...
Or was this after?
This was a documentary that Friedkin made, I think, in the 90s.
Okay, so this was after Exorcist. Okay.
Yeah, and, he met Father Amort, and he was allowed to film the exorcism under very specific conditions. Fun note, Father Amort, he he liked the movie The Exorcist, not because it was factually correct, but because it helped people understand his work. He said that demonic possession doesn't usually really look like that. Mm-hmm. People's heads don't usually just like spin. It's not like something that he's witnessing every single day.
Yeah, because I'd be like, if that were really happening, like the first time it would happen, that person would be dead. That person should be dead.
Well, yeah, that's sort of like an example of that second form of the second form of demonic activity is demonic possession, and it is the most the gravest and most spectacular, and probably also the most rare. So Father Amort says demonic assaults are internal spiritual assaults. It's not as crystal clear visually. It's very rare for people to be entirely possessed 100% of the time. And you don't necessarily have to be writhing around, screaming, levitating, head spinning, or standing on the ceiling to be possessed. Let's see. Friedkin says he feels a little bad for creating the stereotype of people being possessed because now there's a lot of people who are kind of being tormented and stuff, and they have unexplained diseases and stuff who don't seek out an exorcism because they're like, well, I'm not projectile vomiting and spider crawling down the stairs, so I must not be possessed.
It's just like, oh my goodness.
Or oppressed or obsessed. So the exorcism that was filmed was performed on a woman named Christina. That is not her real name. Christina. And there was no camera crew or lights allowed, just Friedman and his camera. And so here's kind of what happened in the video. Amort puts his hand on Christina's head and prays. She falls into a trance. Her head is bobbing really violently. There's a weird buzzing sound in the room, which I find that really weird because like one of the subliminal sounds that they put into the Exorcist movie was the sound of bees. That's very strange. Not the bees! Not the bees! And she starts flailing and screaming, and gradually it becomes sort of the distorted and growling, like very gradually. Some examples of what she said during this. She belongs to us. Send the priest away. Don't touch her. We are legion. We are armies. Then Father taps her on the forehead and Christina is back. So there's a misconception that the exorcism goes on until the demon is gone. It doesn't. It takes many sessions. An exorcism is like therapy. So you don't have one session and then you're cured, but many sessions over a long period of time. The longest recorded ongoing exorcism for Father Amort took 16 years. So here's a fun thing and also a pretty good segue into what we're watching next
time
episode. Yeah. So right before Christina's 10th exorcism session, Father Amort died of pneumonia. He was like 91.
Yeah.
But not before telling his assistant that he couldn't wait to get to heaven so he could beat the devil with his cane. Apparently he followed through on this because when another exorcist called on Father Amort's spirit for help, the demon that was possessing Christina screamed, "Don't call him, I can't stand it." So I guess you could say that Father Amort kicks ass for the Lord.
Yes. For those of you wondering why we're saying that, stay tuned because I'm gonna reveal what we're gonna be talking about next time.
Mighty gospel of the Lord. So that's my 7 pages.
She really threw the pages. She really threw the pages all over the place.
Oh, Christ compels you. All right. Do you have any other comments to make? No, I think no.
No, it's okay. You went really in depth.
I know I did. Yeah,
I gotta say, I do love it when you go as far in depth, like with these. With this stuff when you do, because holy moly, you go way really in, and I have to admire it.
I feel like as a Catholic, I had to go that deep.
Yeah, understandable.
So I just want to explain when I have the opportunity and the platform.
Hey, don't worry, you good, you good.
I know, I wasn't apologizing.
But yeah, overall, I mean, The Exorcist obviously is like one of the most famous horror movies of all time, and a lot of people consider it the scariest. It is a very terrifying movie.
I don't know if it's the scariest.
It's a terrifying movie under the right circumstances. It, like you said, there are certain scenes that it installs that fight or flight feel in a human being. Like, I mean, I had that during the I can't pronounce that the name of that operation.
Oh, the cerebral angiogram.
Yeah, the angiogram scene. Like, I had to look away during. I'm like, nope. Like,
it might just be because of my time working in the funeral home, and that's what happens when you what do you call it? When you embalm somebody, you find the carotid, you raise it, you sort of slice it halfway open and put a little catheter into it so you could pump the chemicals in. So that's why that scene actually didn't really bother me that much.
Fair enough. I had a feeling you had a little bit more of a shield of that than I did.
Yes.
Like, for me, like, anytime like needles and hospital rooms or stuff like that are involved, I flash back to when I was a child. I was 5 years old. I was in the hospital with pneumonia.
Oh yeah.
And I had needles and blood taken out of me like almost every day.
Yeah.
Oh, it was not fun, I tell you.
I've also removed so many catheters from dead bodies. It's not even funny.
Ooh.
So.
I don't even want to know. I do not even want to know.
You don't need to know. You can imagine.
That makes it worse. Why?
Oh man.
But
well, hopefully my voice didn't like scare anybody off from listening to this.
Nah, you're good.
Such as like the signs of demonic possession.
Actually, I do want to talk about like the cast a little bit, because we didn't get to talk about the person who ended up voicing the demon of Pazuzu.
Yes.
Mercedes McCambridge, who in the early 40s was a very phenomenal radio
That's right.
radio voice actor specifically. In fact, she is labeled as one of the greatest radio actresses alive by Orson Welles himself.
Dude.
So high praises from again, another very notable radio performer turned voice, one of the earliest voice artists that is known. But yeah, she added a lot of like brevity to like the entire possession of Reagan.
Brevity? Do you mean clarity?
Clarity, yeah, realism.
Realism.
I'm struggling to find words.
That's
at this
fine.
point.
That's fine. That's why I'm here.
It's okay. But yeah,
I do words good.
Yeah, she added a good sense of realism to it, because it's that kind of voice that like harbors on like just being completely like animalistic, like
it kind of sounded like speaking of Stanley Kubrick again, the Red Rum voice that Danny does in the
yes, actually yes, you're
it
right.
It kind of sounded like that a little bit.
Red Rum.
Yeah, like I was actually expecting the demon voice to be a little bit more like low and guttural and bellowing, but it was a little bit more shrill and stuff.
Yeah. Do you know what she did? Your beeping daughter.
We never did find out what she did.
Yeah, we never did.
Was it just talking about how she contacted Captain Howdy?
Either that, or was it before or after Burke died?
Oh, yeah, that might have been it. But what? You're like, it's like you like, why would he? It doesn't even make any sense, because it's like, Demon, you did that.
Yeah, I mean, considering like all the problems that went on in the production of this movie, it's kind of amazing everything comes together as it does. But like we mentioned, there are some plot points that kind of fall through a bit.
Yep.
So,
like, who desecrated that statue?
Who desecrated the statue? As Hannah shakes her fist up to the heavens. Tell me.
Tell me.
And then who?
God on high.
I mean, we don't know who exactly how. Well, we know how Burke and Marin died, but we don't know if it was actually influenced by the demon or anything like that. We never, because we never see the deaths.
The demon was suspiciously close by, so you know.
I like the heavy implication more. Like, it's sometimes not showing helps out a little bit. Hello, Kefka. Kefka has finally joined us on the table.
Hello, boy.
He'll be okay. But overall, like, it was a really good movie to watch.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And this film did spawn, I want to say 2 more sequels, and it does feature returning cast members. Obviously, Linda Blair comes back as Reagan.
Yeah.
Karis actually returns in Exorcist 3.
What? How? As a spirit?
I do not remember, and to say any more would give away the plot of that.
Okay, hold on.
So we will figure that out in time.
Here we go. Hold on. No, don't go anywhere.
Hold up. There you go.
There we go.
Good job,
Okay.
Kefka.
I've been systematically trimming my cat's claws over the past day and a half.
It'll help against scratching of your face.
Yes, but it will impede his progress of clawing into my brain. Right?
Indeed.
Is that right?
Indeed, human.
Right? Did you hear that?
Yeah, he responded.
Yeah, buddy. You're a good cat, even though you're insane. Because you're a good human, even though you're insane. Thank you.
All right, I think it's about time we wrap this up.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys for listening to our reactions to the original Exorcist movie. I definitely had a good time watching it. Hannah, you obviously
Muted.
okay.
He was like, just go back the past like 10 seconds or so, because he like rubbed his face against the mic and it turned to the blinking light instead of the solid.
Oh yeah, we're recording now. Sorry, Kefka headbutted the mic. So
he was like, "Shut up! You're done. You're done."
So that was our reaction to The Exorcist. I had a fun time. Hannah, you had a good time with the movie?
Oh yeah, I did.
Awesome. So that's going to be it for this episode of General Geekery. Thank you guys so much for listening in. Next time, we are continuing with our little horror movie escapade following for the month. And as Hannah mentioned earlier about kicking ass for the Lord, the movie
One of my favorite quotes from a movie I've never seen.
we are watching 1992's Dead Alive. And for those of you that don't know what that movie is, all I can say is, you thought that Peter Jackson was notable just for directing Lord of the Rings? Oh, no. Get ready for possibly one of the most hilarious grindhouse zombie films that I have ever seen in my life.
Yep.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited to
so
see
fun.
the context of that short scene that you
Yes.
sent me one day.
Oh, you're going to love it. But that's going to be it for right now, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys like everything that we do here on the podcast, make sure to check us out on all of our social media platforms, on Instagram at General Geekery and on Twitter at Gen Geek Podcast. If you guys want to check us out on anything else that we do, we have all of the links and stuff in the description of this episode, including my Twitch channel at Coffee Ninja Ryu, Hannah's DeviantArt page where she does all her wonderful arts, at Dolman Bright.
You got it!
I remembered it! Let's go! And, of course, we are both on Loaded Dice Adventures on Mondays and Wednesdays, respectfully, at Loaded Dice Adventures at
Respectfully.
Twitch.tv.
Sometimes respectfully. Sometimes disrespectfully.
Bruh.
Bruh.
And, of course, if you guys want to support the show in any way, shape, or form, I actually recommend that you check out our Ko-fi and Patreon pages. And if you guys want to support the show, please leave us Stein Coin if you so wish. We do appreciate it. And thank you so much for listening. This has been episode 10 of Season 2 of General Geekery, talking about The Exorcist. For Hannah, I'm Donald Kaczynski. And until next time, guys, always remember to keep your geek on.
Always.
Clink, clink.
Whoa, that echoed a lot.
Indeed.
Alright, cat. Time to trim your other nails.
And that's where we're closing off. Bye, guys.
Come on.